DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
You're tuned in to DJNTV Live with your host, Brian S. Red.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight's topic is old gear. And for doing a show on old gear, there's two old guys
who have old gear.
And I've been digging through a lot of old stuff recently. So tonight is basically therapy for those of us who've been digging through storage units, I think is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, or closets or garages or whatever you have.
So
in some cases.
So what's, for those of you who follow Brian's Facebook and such, he's been cleaning out some garages, some family garages and things, and reliving or going through a lot of the history of things that have been packed away for a number of years. Mm-hmm. And this past weekend, I had the weekend off, and I'm just tired of these boxes of DJ gear that have been sitting around forever. And it's like, you know what? If I get rid of some of this stuff because it's in the way, I could have more, room to do some things and do some work. So I had this great idea. I'm going to go and list things on the Facebook Marketplace this weekend. Did you guys, any of the stuff that you're digging out of the garages, have you guys listed any of that for sale online at all, Brian?
No.
I think at times, now we've had some success. Lawnmowers sold really well. Earlier in the year, we had a couple of lawnmowers. Lori listed them within 10 minutes. We had somebody message and are on their way, and boom, they were gone with it.
Right.
Incredibly fast. I have my DJ gear that I put out, and one of them was a gator kind of a DJ coffin. It has 4 rack space in the front and 8 or so on the top, and in the back, it's the top, back, and front open. Nice unit. We bought them, and I think we used them like once or something because they were just so big to try to maneuver. They're great though.
Yeah.
So we had these things, and I thought, well, I'm going to put this up on Facebook Marketplace. The number of people who message is incredible when you have DJ gear, especially if it's at a decent price. And they're just like, is it available? Hey, can I stop by and look at it? And you're going and you're like, yeah, come on, go to it. And, no one ever does.
Yeah.
One particular piece of gear from Saturday, I had 25 inquiries Saturday alone on that piece of gear.
Yeah.
No one has come to see. Actually, my first person is going to be coming tomorrow morning. And he's one living like 10 miles south of me. He's coming up here, and we're actually going to sit down because he's like, dude, I get a lot of friends here who are DJs. And it's like, you bring your truck and I'm going to just throw stuff in your truck until I'm tired.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I do a good clean out once a year here, probably. And it goes to a variety of places, and I'm running out of places for it to go. So like what I'll try to do sometimes is look up a friend who is in need, like they're gigging and maybe the stuff they have is older than the stuff I have. It's like, here, let me hook you up. And when the time comes when I need a favor, don't forget, I did this for you. But there are other things like, the stuff from the 90s is the scary stuff. And that's the stuff that I found a cove of cleaning out my mom and dad's. and it's going to go in a dumpster. It just is. It's worth nothing. And just to even take the time to deal with people for Facebook Marketplace on it isn't worth my time.
Very much so.
It's just got to go. I mean, there are other things that I try to incorporate into my office. So sometimes there are lights that I no longer need. What do I do with those lights? I install them.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of the decor in the office. So I have fun with them. That I can do. Other things, what are you going to do? It's got to go.
It's got to go. And I think that's the one lesson that I'm going to take from this little ordeal is that if I'm not using it, and if it goes 2 years without me using it, it's got to go.
Yeah.
Because what I found in a lot of the instances, as an example, Newmark back in the day had one of the first CD players that really was hot in the DJ industry that would allow you to sync the beats. And it had, in essence, a sync button and a CDN 88 and a CDN 90. Fabulous units. Oh my gosh, we had lots of them, and they were bulletproof for the longest time.
Yeah.
I had 2 of them remaining, and I went and I opened them up, and I was testing everything out, and one of them had the right deck that was shot, and one of them had the left deck that wasn't working anymore. The most interesting thing about it is I kind of expected that just because of humidity and different things over the years.
Right.
All the rubber on the deck or on the devices, it felt like it was starting to get sticky and kind of dissolving.
Yeah.
It's like, but then again, when did the CDN 88 come out? It came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in that ballpark. So these pieces of gear just are not meant to be lasting 20 years.
Yeah. Well, Robin said Goodwill. That's an option for some things. If it's functional stuff, if it works.
Yeah.
I don't want to give Goodwill broken things.
For sure.
And Jimmy said Salvation Army because Goodwill's for profit. I kind of have an opinion on that too. Got a mentally disabled stepson who goes to Goodwill every day, and that's for his program. So I don't mind donating because they keep him occupied every day and take him on field trips and all that kind of stuff. So I don't mind giving to them for that.
Him, yeah.
And the Goodwill is pretty close by. So yeah, I mean, that's an option for things that are functional.
Mm-hmm.
What I end up with is a lot of stuff that just either doesn't work anymore, didn't work out very well in the first place.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. I just, I'm looking at that stack of stuff, and a lot of it is stuff that I might have tried to get rid of, but my dad kind of said, well, we'll put this aside. Maybe you'll want it someday. I think a lot of it might be that. But yeah, what are you going to do? You know what I ran into yesterday, as a matter of fact?
That was where I wanted to go next, is what was the coolest find so far when you're digging into the
coolest find so far? And I could make money on it, but I'm giving it away. I'm going to give it to my brother and see what he does with it, just because I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he wants it. I found a Crown Macrotech 2400.
Oh, yeah.
It's still worth some money.
Mm-hmm.
But my Crown Macrotech 2400 probably isn't worth as much as other Crown Macrotech 2400s, because I bought mine used.
Okay.
I bought it after Hurricane Katrina, and it was in a riverboat that got capsized. And so it's a little beat up, but it works fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not pretty. It never was pretty, but it works. I needed 3,200 watts of power for some subwoofers that delivered it, but it also probably made me about 2 inches shorter.
It's a heavy beast.
It's a 70, 80 pound unit.
Yeah, those were heavy.
And I remember as soon as I got it, involved with the videos, ADJ invited me on an on-tour event. It was one of the only ones I went on where I traveled to Canal. It was Canal Hi-Fi at the time. It's Canal Sound and Light now. And that's where I met Jeffrey Kwan. And they had just came out with those XTI amplifiers. Do you remember those?
No, I don't know.
They were really nice. XTI was like, it wasn't a replacement for the Macrotech, but it was when they first went digital.
Okay.
They had the iTechs that came out that were stupid expensive, like a Macrotech.
Mm-hmm.
Macrotech iTech was the replacement. Then they came out with the other one that was a little less expensive, kind of the next grade down. Lots of power, 17 pounds a piece. I bought 2 of them from Jeffrey and had them shipped, and he gave me a heck of a price on them, and that's when I parked that Macrotech, and that was the last amp I owned. Everything else went active after that.
See,
that was 12 years ago.
We had a Macrotech. We bought one. We had the PV-CS. We started with the CS800, which everybody
had that.
Everybody had that boat anchor. Then they came out with the CS800S, which was a half the weight, was more of a digital unit, which was a great little amplifier. And then we transitioned from there. We went into the QSC line, and we got into the PLX and the Powerlight, which the Powerlight, oh my goodness gracious, were those expensive. That particular the big Powerlight was we picked up a specific one that only would go down to a 4 ohm load per side stereo instead of some of them would go down to a 2 ohm load. This one would not do that, but it was much higher. In 8 ohms, I think it was kicking out like 750 watts a side or something. And oh my gosh, did we think we had the world by the butt with that? Going from a PV-CS series amplifier to that. And then we had for like this blip of time, Stewart amplifiers. Did you ever play with a Stewart amp?
No, never.
We had, and I've been finding them because we had them all over. We had different variations of the Stewart amplifiers, which were some of the first they were ultralight amplifiers, and they were more of a digital amplifier, and they had big heat sinks. Or not much for fans and such, but there's just a lot of big heat sinks on these things. And Lori actually had one running her subwoofers for a number of years. And oh my goodness, could that thing just make those 18-inch subs bounce?
Yeah.
Just an incredible. But they were, at the time, just to even, I want to say we were paying well over $1,000 an amp at that time for these little guys. And it was just crazy, but.
Right. I mean, it didn't, the speaker was whatever. It was what you powered the speaker with.
Yeah,
that was what cost you money back then.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, because we were, for a while we were running the PVs, and then early on we made the jump to bag end specifically because in their promotion that they started doing in the Mobile Beat magazine, the first few issues of Mobile Beat had bag end speakers in that, and they were so small and portable. And the little TA12 Junior was this little box, and it's like, well, let's see. I've got a small wife and a small speaker box. This could work together, kind of a thing. Yeah. Because otherwise, what she was, our very first system was the PV with the 388 top, which was huge, and she did manage to run those for a while, but it was way more. Then we went to the 358 PV top, which was a little smaller, and that's what she ran for a period of time. But boy, once she went to that bag-in system, it's just ridiculous. It was a huge step, but again, all those. I still have those speakers, and I literally just took Lori's show apart this past weekend because they were always sitting there. You stacked it in a corner, and it's been there. But those speakers are what Michael uses in the his weightlifting area. So he's got 2 18s, and he's got those. I think he's got 4 of the tops. And when he's in that building way over there lifting weights, I can hear him in here just clear as day.
Yeah.
Thump, thump, thump.
Yeah. I mean, how many things can you really set up for your home? I mean, there's only so many things I think you can do before it's just like, all right, we just have too much stuff. And I'm doing all right now. I mean, it's very manageable right now, but there will come a time where I got to weed out again. And aside from the stuff out of mom and dad's that I got to get rid of, everything here is kind of the museum of recent history. It's nothing that's 100 years old. Something from the 90s or whatever. This is all stuff that's relatively recent. It's just a matter of, picking what you want to use. You always get used out of things like, PARs, LED PARs. You always get used out of that because you can do uplighting jobs with it. You can do multiple uplighting jobs at a time with it. And we've done it. I mean, we've done it over here between me and my guys. Mm-hmm. We ran a couple different uplighting jobs a night and ambitious ones too.
Nice.
So that's never anything that I feel like we've got to get rid of because it's in the way. It's things like controllers, cases. Oh my gosh, cases are just in the way all the time. Things that seemed like a good idea at the time, but turned out not to be such a good idea. Different lighting systems and trussing systems and things like that, where you're just kind of over it. Mm-hmm. You tried it, it worked or it didn't work or whatever, but at any rate, you're moved on to something else. Can someone get use out of it? Perhaps. Could you take it to Goodwill? Yeah, if it works, you can. But ultimately, the stuff just needs to go away.
Very much so. And again, that 2-year thing is going to be kind of my new sort.
Good rule.
Good rule now. Yep, just to go through and even some things may even be quicker than that. It's like if I start to go, it's probably time to go. Well,
and it's nothing It's something I can think of that I would get nostalgic about. I mean, what would that be? Turntables. I have those, and I understand their value. And I was there when nobody wanted them, and that's why I have so many of them. And now everybody wants them again.
Yeah.
Records got that. That's okay. You can. For me, I'm cool with that, and I enjoy it. And I say I enjoy it. I'm preparing to enjoy it. I was going to enjoy it this summer. This summer didn't work out. Maybe I'll enjoy it this winter. Maybe that's what I'll do this winter is enjoy some records and really put some miles on these decks. But what am I going to get nostalgic about an old amp or about an old halogen light? No, I'm not going to get nostalgic.
Yeah, no, not so much. Not so much. Not when they're so.
It just got to go.
So evil.
Let it go. Let it go.
So I've got to go. I'm going to go grab my one cool find from all of them. And I've talked about this piece, but I actually found it this weekend. So I think I've got it right on the other side. I'm going to go grab that.
What do you got? It's got to be cooler than a Macrotech 2400. See what he's got. What do you think it is? Like some kind of big old spinning puke light that weighs 60 pounds, maybe? That's what I think it is. I think it's like an old Avenger or something from 1992. That's my guess. Let's see what he comes up with. And in which case, he's been hoarding for way too long. I mean, I've gone through things since then. What does the man have? No, the 1200 turntables aren't going anywhere. We've learned that lesson, and I even knew at the time. I mean, that stuff was just too cool. I enjoyed it too much. I couldn't believe people were just getting rid of things like that, like they were. They were just disposing of them for a long time. I was getting them for free sometimes. Going back 20 I'm saying 30 years. People were just giving it away. Fine, 20 years, I guess, now that I think about it, 25 years. And I still pick them up where I can. I think I have 7 of them currently. And I will continue to have 7 of them, if not more. I did get some new marks in that I got to go through for a friend, just for listening. Hopefully I can build one turntable out of 2. But yeah, the Radio Shack mixer would be fun to have. I actually gave that to a friend who lived in Asia. And I shouldn't have. I had a gorgeous one. I should have kept that just for nostalgia purposes. But I had that Radio Shack mixer, a really nice one, a clean one. Should have hung on to that just for fun.
I can't believe it.
Another one for a long time.
I can't believe it. I pulled it out and took a picture for Jimmy the other day.
You lost it.
And I lost it.
What was it, like a 1992 80J Avenger?
No, it was actually. Well, I've got a picture of it. It was when Radio Shack actually contacted or got a hold of Shure and had Shure make a microphone for them.
Oh.
And it was actually a really, really good microphone because I was on the phone with Jimmy and he tested it and he was hearing it. But I can't find the stupid thing. But here we go.
I have 7 1200s, Scott.
This was
okay. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the microphone that Shure came out with, or I should say Radio Shack came out, but it had a Shure element and it actually was listed as a Shure unit, and it sounded great. And I think I paid like $59 or $69 for the thing. Yeah. And we equivalent sound to a 58, and I was like, this is awesome. And then I went back to Radio Shack after we tested it, and they were sold out. But it was their one flash in the pan. Yeah, that was my big find, and it still functioned.
But I guess you just got to let it go. I mean, you got to let it go. It's got to go away. There's nowhere that's going to even be something you're ever going to go back and the only thing I can think of is that somebody finally makes a movie about the evolution of mobile DJs and what it was like to be a mobile DJ in the 1990s. It could be props for that movie. Otherwise, I can't think of one thing you would use that stuff for. It's over.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's very much over. I've been going through my dad's things. He has a lot of tools and instruments and things that just aren't used anymore. They're obsolete pieces, and we've moved on. We use other things now, and we've had to get rid of them. I mean, I don't get rid of cool antiques. I don't do that, but certain things that just aren't used anymore, aren't relevant anymore, they got to go.
You mentioned tools. I was going through a week before. I was sorting through the garage, and there was the old socket set that my grandfather used. And of course, my dad had purchased it, but he purchased it for my grandfather when he was on the farm. And then, of course, he used it, and then it was handed down to me. And over the years, and most of these sockets were, broken. They get cracked as you're farming. And it's down to this I don't know, probably 50 piece socket sets down to about 10 or 12 sockets. Yeah. And the only really valuable part is the ratchet and the breaker bar. And I'm looking at that, and it's like, okay, do I keep this big metal box? I mean, it's big metal box is made half a dozen trips across Minnesota, and it's been there, done that, and it's fallen apart, and the divider's, not in there anymore, and it's a little rusty and really kind of nasty. And it's like, it's time to go.
Well, we do have my great grandfather's wooden tool chest. We do have that.
Nice.
We pulled that out. I mean, he was born in the 1800s, and it was old when he got it. We do have my great uncle's machinist chest, which still has micrometers and, measuring tools in it, things like that. There's certain things, it's like, that's cool. That's kind of history. Let's keep that. Mm-hmm. Other things, no. You don't keep anything made of plastic. That all goes.
It's probably falling apart.
It doesn't stay. My dad worked for Huffy, for his career, that's what he did. And he ended up bringing a lot of things home that they were going to get rid of, but he thought, no, let's keep it. So there's boxes of bicycle reflectors and bicycle headlights. And he did work for the exercise bike division too. So there's a lot of stuff for exercise bikes. Well, nobody cares about, nobody cared about it then. They don't care about it now. Digital speedometers, the boxes of those things. I mean, it's stuff like that we just had to get rid of. For sure. There's just nothing you can do with it. Nobody wants it. It's worth nothing. It's just in the way. All good intentions, and I understand that. But this is kind of a live and learn thing over there. But having said that, I have a few things, possessions of mine that are important to me. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that my kid knows that these possessions are important to me and why they're important to me.
Oh, sure.
There are hand-me-down things that, of course, it's family heirloom at this point, a watch or, whatever. But then there are things that are mine and mean something. And those are the things that, I wanted to know about. I have a Leatherman tool that I got. I actually got it as a gift from my ex-in-laws for a Christmas, maybe. It was just a little Leatherman keychain. You flip it open, it's got a little scissors on it and a little knife in it.
Yeah.
And I put it on my keychain, and I use it all the time. And pre 9/11, I remember I went to Australia and was on my gearing, and I just brought it on the plane. Yeah. Like, nobody cared if you had a knife on a plane back then. So I went to Australia with this thing. I always carried it with me. We went to this, I think it was called the Center Point Tower. It's this big, it looks like the thing in Toronto, the Sky Needle thing in Toronto.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
It looks like that, but it's in Sydney, Australia. And there's a restaurant on the top of it. And this is built probably in the 60s, kind of, it's got some wear on it, We went up in that thing, we had dinner. I was with a group of people, a group of Australians. And I remember we got in the elevator, long elevator ride. We came down and it said ground floor, and the doors didn't open. And I went up and it said top floor, doors didn't open, and I went down. and the Australians were panicking. And one of them was this big bodybuilder guy, and he's freaking out. He's on the phone with maintenance. Get us out of this bloody thing. And I'm just laughing. And like, well, how are you laughing? Like, because this is just ridiculous and stupid. This is a Monty Python sketch. So we go down again, and they're panicking. I can see it in their eyes. They are panicking. So I pull out my Leatherman tool. I pull the scissors out. I wedge him in the door of the elevator and twist it, and they open. It was my hero moment. You know, I saved Crocodile Dundee from an elevator
with that pair of Leatherman.
That little Leatherman tool, you know, there's a story behind that, and here you go. But most things are just, it's just stuff. Most things are just stuff. They don't mean anything. Of course, we have a car now that obviously we know where that came from. And I'd like to, it would be nice if I could know that that would be in the family for a very long time. Because that's the plan. But most things, we can't get nostalgic about it. We can't get sentimental about it. We can only be sentimental about a few things. We can't be sentimental about everything, because otherwise you have no life anymore.
Yeah, for sure. You end up with the situation where your things end up ruling you.
And that's how it is. You know, do you own your things, or do your things own you? That's very, very poignant that you even say that, because that's true. It could get to the point where your things actually own you, and you're working for your things instead of the other way around. Oh,
for sure. And I think we definitely see that in the DJ industry as we're buying and upgrading and changing and modifying, but yet that still works. That CD mix that Robin was talking about earlier, it still works. Yeah. And I mean,
well, you know, as you can see, I'm cool with the records. I mean, that's the allowance I make myself.
Yeah.
But I don't make allowances on anything else. Everything else, you know, the media is important to me because it was a big deal. I remember how important it was, and the fewer and fewer people around who remember how important it was, and how cool it was to throw this record on a turntable. But records are even big again. So I don't know. And I was talking today about how pop music is not as relevant as it used to be, because, you know, when I do an event, even if it's a graduation party, nobody's asking for current tracks. They're asking for old stuff, you know, and everybody's kind of digging it. It's not like the old days where whatever was on the charts, that's what you play because that's what everybody knows. Nobody knows what's on the charts. They're not paying attention anymore. So life's different that way. So with that in mind, maybe this old stuff is very relevant. Maybe this old crusty stuff that I have up here that's cherry picked is more relevant than ever, because it's going to the back catalog now. It seems to be going to the back catalog for a lot of people in music. So maybe it's more interesting than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Regard.
I think there's a level of that, and part of it, as we've talked about before, with the use of the songs in movies and different things. I don't know if it's so much of that there isn't, because it isn't quality stuff, because there is some things out there that are still decent.
Sure.
I just think it's that the younger people that they're aiming these things for, the mumble rap and things such as that are still going to, the hip hop side, the kids are still into that. But the problem is, because everyone can listen to so many different things, none of those are going to really hit big anymore, unless, you know, it's something that's being pushed by labels, which they're not pushing like they used to. So you've got your few pop hits here, but the kids are basically going to say, all of, you know, this is what the little kids, you know, the 4, 5, 6 graders or the 5th graders, that's what they're listening to. I want to go listen to something. So, you know, my my senior this year and his friends, they're all listening to the 70s and 80s stations. That's what they're streaming. They're streaming that stuff. They're digging the kind of stuff that's back here and back behind you. They're into that stuff now. My 15-year-old, he's doing the pop things, but the last probably 4 hours I've listened to him out here, he's mixing 90s rap tunes. That's what he's working on. He's bringing those into his hip hop set.
Well, do you remember, like, 17 magazine?
Yeah.
You know who 17 magazine was written for?
Probably like the 20-something guys.
12-year-olds.
Oh, 12 years. 12-year-olds.
It was written for 12-year-olds.
Oh,
because every 12-year-old wanted to be 17.
17. I see. I get it. Sure.
So it wasn't written for 17-year-olds. It was written for 12-year-olds. So the reason I bring that up is because I can remember being a teenager and wanting to be older. I didn't want to be a kid. Or even as a kid, I wanted to be older.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to grow facial hair, and I wanted to do adult things. I didn't want to do childish or children things. It wasn't cool. I wanted to listen to music that older people listen to. And at the time, an older person to me is 18 or whatever.
Sure.
Or of the age to go out to a bar or a club or whatever. I think those days are gone. I think kids are cool with being kids. And that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it, I think, for the first time with, like, do you remember the sing-along songs for the kids, that the little videotapes and things that they would have for? Yeah, I wouldn't have dared have done that, even as a 4 or 5-year-old. That would have been childish to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do sing-along songs. That's not cool. I want to be a bigger kid. I want to be an older kid.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people in my generation were like that. We wanted to speed up the maturity process and move on to the next thing. 17 magazine for 12-year-olds, same kind of thing. It's not that way now. If you're 14, you want to be 14. And that's great. You're living in the moment. Only problem is that there's nothing to aspire to. There's not that thing. You know, Prince was not for me at 12 years old. Prince was for somebody who was 19, 20 years old. But I still wanted it. I still liked it. And Van Halen wasn't for 12-year-old me. Van Halen was for 21-year-old somebody, but I wanted it because it was cool and it was mature, and you know, I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Oh, it certainly does.
So like now I don't see that. Now I don't see a 13, 14-year-old saying to themselves, yeah, I want to jump on this music thing that the 20, 21-year-olds are checking out, because I would rather, yeah, I aspire to be that. No, they're cool with being a child. And the music is childish. Like the mumble rap is childish.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anything that anybody over, not many people who are adults are going to listen to. It's very much for kids. It's kid music, which is why it doesn't have the appeal. So if you've got music that's kind of aimed, they say it's always aimed at 14-year-olds, but I don't believe that's true. I think that there's a lot of music that has just this mass appeal, and older people will enjoy it. My mother, she'll come up with a quote, and it's from Kelly Clarkson, or Bruno Mars, or somebody who's contemporary, because she's cool with that. She's 77 and she listens to that stuff. But she's not listening to little anybody. It's not her thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're going to have 14-year-olds who do listen to Bruno Mars and Kelly Clarkson. So the mass appeal stuff is fewer and far between. I don't know. At any rate, my point being is, perhaps this older stuff is more and more relevant as time goes on. The golden age of top 40 music, maybe it's over. Not that there's never going to be a great song written again. I'm not suggesting that. But what I am suggesting is just this massive wave of new music that you got to have. I don't see that happening. Or it's not happening right now.
You mentioned, I think, in a past discussion we've had, that music has a cycle, specifically when looking at which party is in charge of the White House.
Yes, and I'm very disappointed because the Republicans are supposed to bring better music, and they just have not.
And not that it's just the situational how things work and such. But yeah, that's an interesting dynamic. Is that if
since 1980,
yeah,
has been my observation. Since 1980, since Reagan, we've had great music while Republicans have been in office. So we had 12 years of really good music.
So basically from 1980 to about 92. And
92, and then everything fell apart. It was Nirvana. It was grunge. And I wasn't into that. That wasn't my thing, but it was angst-ridden. It didn't have the dance floor BPM or any of that. And then all of a sudden 2001 comes along and we get this fantastic wave of music again. And it pretty much lasts through 2008.
Somewhere in that ballpark. And then
it went away. Not completely. It trickled out, but yeah, the big wave of it kind of went away. So, yeah, it's just a weird observation. So, I typically don't vote Republican. Not that I'm against Republican stuff, but I tend to lean towards Democrat. So when a Republican gets in office, the booby prize for that is, well, at least we get good music.
The music.
And we didn't. Didn't happen. So I feel just completely robbed. So.
And that's the part, as you were talking, you mentioned that theory a while back, and you start looking at that, and it's like, okay, so there was, and then that we were DJing during the Clinton years up in the bar, and you're looking at that, and there's only a handful of songs that really came out that were like that had staying power from that era, which I actually found, because that was the time when we started getting into CDRs, and we were making basically a compilation of the compilations, so that you had the 25 songs or 20 songs on a CD. Yeah, this was for the first 6 months of the year. Those are the 25 songs you should know. And here's the 25 songs from the second half of the year. There, now you've got the whole year's worth of music on two discs. Go for it. That's what we were doing at that time.
It works that way. You can do that with the promo onlys too. You can look at them and say, okay, I think we can consolidate this entire 6 months into a disc. We probably won't even play all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll play this one, and this one, but the rest of them, we just have them just in case.
Yeah.
They're ballads or whatever. But a lot of it's just completely disposable. The 90s were weird. I mean, there was some fantastic stuff that happened. And when I think of 90s, I'm not thinking of the entire decade of the 90s. The 90s started for me in 93. That's the 93 to 99 is the 90s to me, which isn't fair, but 90, 91, and 92 were an extension of the 80s as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and the sound was definitely still there.
Yeah, the sound of the 90s is that 93 to 99 kind of thing.
God, I hated doing high school dances during that time frame when Nirvana was the thing that these kids wanted to hear. And the chaperones and the advisors were like, you can't play that kind of music. It's like, that's all these kids are asking for.
That's all they want.
It's all they want. There's this moody thing going on, and you can't, And
that's when I went completely retro. That's when I was like seeking out these really weird songs that just weren't available on CD up until now, or buying them as imports.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was trying to find the single of Safety Dance, which is impossible because the album version and the 12-inch version is the extended version.
Okay.
The single version is what everybody wants to dance to. Turned up on I think it was a German compilation called Pop and Wave, and it was like $42, which, was damn near a night's work for me. But I bought it, and I had to have it. And I got a copy of the Cameron Paul mix of CCCP's American Soviets on CD. Nobody had that, and I had it. I think they pressed 5 of them, and I got one. Like, where did you get that? I just did. Some things were happening, like up here regionally, we were doing like the second wave of Chicago house with Cashmere, Percolator, and things like that. And I was finding those weird things on disc and digital. So I was just stretching all over the place. Some of the techno was kind of cool. You could do some of that, but it was hard. It was really hard there for a while, and it got easier eventually, but it was hard there for a while and even then, a lot of it I was doing was retro. I wasn't relying on the top 40. Yeah, you played it. I remember like, okay, which version of I Swear do I play? The John Michael Montgomery or the All for One?
All for One, yeah. Well, they both came out like back.
I mean, that was about 94, 95, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right around there. I mean, that kind of stuff you played.
And that's really when country music came on, is during that mid 90s where we had that, and that was a blip in time that was kind of fun. I'll give it that, but it's sad when some of those songs from that era, we're still, the most requested country tune that I have is something from Shania Twain.
Right.
And
or
came out of that era.
You got Chattahoochee and Boot Scootin' Boogie and
and the kids,
things like that.
I'm at a high school dance, and they're like, "Can you play Boot Scootin' Boogie?" I was like, "Really, seriously?" And they got a line dance that the FIAT instructor, the 20-something-year-old FIAT instructor, taught them, and that's what they go with.
Yeah.
DJ, I think it's LEL. If I said that wrong, I apologize. I'll mention that the young, because those of you in the chat, you see it, but those of you watching elsewhere, you're not going to see it. I'll mention that the younger generation wants nothing to do with older stuff, and I think we're going to define older stuff here. That's what I wanted to do from the statement.
Who said that?
DJ LEL, I believe it is.
They're wrong.
Well, when
You're
they
totally
mentioned,
wrong.
made the reference to going back and saying, who's Aretha Franklin? And I think there's a level of this where the Buddy Holly and Elvis probably not so much and the Beatles not so much, but some of these secondary artists from that, Chuck Berry and I think those types of artists that aren't in a movie and aren't being used in pop culture, I don't get requests for Rock Around the Clock and such like I used to. Those types of songs. I mean, the Peppermint Twist at one time was a highly requested tune, whatever. The North to Alaska type of songs were requested at one time. Those, I think, oldies that way are going. Now oldies are, can you play some Karma Chameleon?
Yeah.
And I think the kids are.
Yeah, the oldies station is 80s music.
It's 80s music. So I think that it's true is that a lot of the 50s is just going to start to find its way to the very deep recesses of our music library, where 80s is now going to become the new 50s music, and the 90s music, which kind of sucked, is going to be kind of like some of that 60s music that sucked that we absolutely hated to. Magic Carpet Ride? Seriously, you want me to play Magic Carpet Ride? Huh? That kind of thing.
I do pretty well with like when we talk about 50s and 60s, it's one thing. I mean, because really you only had 5 solid years out of it. Well, 6 years. No, 5 years. You had 5 years out of the 50s where 55 was kind of rock and roll.
Yeah.
Hello, here we are. So I don't know. I mean, I can do Rock Around the Clock because some people have seen Happy Days.
Oh, yeah.
We can do a couple. Johnny Be Good because some people have seen Back to the Future.
Yeah, there's a little bit there.
Not that I play that song a lot, but people do sometimes like it. The Little Richard stuff seems to pop up here and there in film, so you can get away with some of that stuff. And then 60s, it's more like the frat rock stuff. It's Louie Kingsman and Young Rascals, Good Love, and oh my gosh, I'm a Believer by the Monkees.
See, and if you,
track.
there's a few bangers that a person can pull out of there, but at one time we could have played the Turtles.
Oh, you could play all night, Peppermint Twist. And
exactly. I mean, if people would have been, or I Got You, Babe would have been one that would have been a huge song at one time. Now they'd look at you like, what?
I haven't played that in years.
But those were just that transition. And again, now our 80s music becomes what the 50s were when we first started. And
so you got a couple things going on. I think you've got record collecting.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's happening. They're going back and they're buying thrift store stuff. This is what the hipsters do.
Yeah.
And, the millennials are doing this and they're discovering things. And they're buying anything and everything. They're buying things that I would throw away. But they're buying and they're listening to them.
And it's interesting listening to the kids talk, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, did you hear this song from this group called Kansas? This Dust in the Wind is pretty good." It's like,
yeah, Barbra Streisand, she rocks, man. She's really good.
Yeah, it's like there's this amazing discovery that they made, and it's like, dude.
I found this album called Herb Albert, Whipped Cream and Other Delights, and it's really interesting. You should hear it.
You got to listen to this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it is. But no, I mean, there's things like that happening. You get it in music. You get it in film or music. You get it in movies and you get it in TV. The older music just pops up, and it pops up more often than than like. How often have you been watching a movie or something and you're like, "Wow, I've never heard that song before. That must be new." That hardly ever happens to me.
And I'm spending so much time watching Netflix, which partially was because of hearing the younger people the 20-somethings have moved on to that. So it's like, well, now maybe we need to be paying more attention to some of these hot shows that these younger people are. And you're hearing that, the 70s and 80s type tunes in there all the time. It's like, goodness gracious. Now, I'm not hearing many 60s type, 50s and 60s. It's kind of in that happy zone where they're taking that idea from what the Guardians of the Galaxy did, I should say, and they brought that over. And obviously, Netflix world, they figure it's cheaper to pay the licensing fee than to go pay someone to create new music for them.
Yeah,
and it's
it's got more mass appeal too.
Yeah, for sure.
So the kids will watch it, and the older people watch it, and the older people will identify with it. But then the kids latch onto it. Brandy by Looking Glass is like the track. It's weird because there are so many other songs that popped up in those Guardians of the Galaxy films that I think would be a bit better. But for some reason, Brandy's the hot track from those movies.
Yeah. Which is
actually the one with staying power. It's the Jungle Boogie
of that, yeah.
of the Guardians of the Galaxy film, which was of course the Pulp Fiction one. Jungle Boogie never went away. You can still play Jungle Boogie. Everybody knows it. Now nobody knew Jungle Boogie even after it came out, especially white people, until Pulp Fiction. Then everybody knew Jungle Boogie.
Interesting. DJ Ellie makes a statement. This new hip hop kid generation think they created music. What's interesting to me about that is that in some of the schools that I play at, and even with Michael and some of his friends, they're all out there trying to cut music, especially after he made his song last fall when he did his Dusky Bra. These kids are like all of a sudden just like everybody's out there trying to record and make a version of a rap type song or hip hop song. With the ability to make songs and microphones and things being so much cheaper than they were, I can see where these kids are all trying to create their own, or many of them are trying to create their own little music thing, and even less opportunity for them to have that homogeneous experience where everyone knows what the 24K song is. Well, I don't listen to that type of music. I make my own music. Well, I don't listen to that music because I listen to my two buddies when they're making their music. So, yay, rah, rah for dances.
I'm a fly on the wall at this point. If I'm lucky enough to be around in 20 years, I'm just curious to see what the climate looks like.
Yeah.
Kind of what the train is. And I kind of have this weird feeling that these geeky kids that are in band class right now are going to be the ones in 10 years that are just going to all of a sudden just show up and be the rock stars because they know how to play and they know how to write and they understand theory.
And they actually understand how to put the notes on a page and make it happen.
And hip hop has been around for a very long time. This is the most played out thing I can think of in pulp culture. It's almost there in spite of itself. I mean, it's interesting, being there for a moment, but to just be there and not go away and not really evolve much. It's very stagnant and homogenous, like you say. Eventually, someone's going to get sick of it. Mm-hmm. Eventually, somebody's going to try something new. I don't know when that will be, but it'll happen eventually. And when it does, I'm just curious as to who steps up.
Well, so right now, kind of a direction that I've been, aside from trying to curate the 70s dinner time or that cocktail hour music where I'm trying to find more eclectic songs. I've been working through that and adding songs to that list. Beyond that, coffee shop music, coffee shop performers,
coffee house music,
house music. I've going through and listening to that and it's like, this is kind of cool. It just so happens that my older son is doing that kind of music, so that was kind of a cool thing. It's like, hey, did you ever listen to this? I shared a song with him. He's like, Dad, that's the kind of stuff I'm doing right now. Are you not listening? Well, dude, you never share, so okay.
Right.
How long have I been doing the DJ thing? I started back in 1986, and then we went. We bought our first full sound system. We rented the first few years, and then 1990 we had our first sound system, and we actually then came up with a real name in 1990. But yeah, 86 was our first. I think it was October of 86 was our first show, and that would have been my senior year of high school, and we were doing homecoming at our school, which probably went okay. I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
So I blocked it out of my mind.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah. It was a long, long time ago. So anyway, that was kind of just a few thoughts that we had for tonight, gang. So I think we're going to call it quits. So thank you guys for being with us tonight and hanging out and chatting. And we'll be back again next week. We're now into the fall, so we'll be back with our shows on a weekly basis and things. So if there's anything you guys would like us to talk about or thoughts and such questions, just reach out to Brian or I and let us know, and we can definitely plan for a future show. So have yourself a great night, and we'll be back again tomorrow night with Dave and Jeremy at, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. Good night, everybody.